Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of This Is Your Captain Speaking. Super excited to have one of Marmine's customers on today. This is going to be an interesting one. So I have Markus Widmer here, who's had almost a decade experience as a chief editor. I've been looking at your profile, I've been digging in and seeing what your background has shared. But it's super interesting. A lot of editing experience for different websites, different publications. Then as a PR consultant, social media consultant, guest lecturer at a university in Vienna. A Fachhochschule is like, I'm not even sure if you can translate that directly as a university, but it's similar. In the English-speaking world, it's like Fachhochschule. I'm not sure what that translates into as English. I don't know. But so, and for the past 5.5 or 5.5 years, Markus has been at MONDI, firstly as a digital marketing manager, but now as the customer experience team lead. So Markus, really happy to have you on. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for inviting me, Andy.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, well, why don't we start with give us a little bit about what MONDI do and maybe some of what you do in your role.
Yeah, so MONDI is a global packaging and paper player. And they have like 26,000 plus employees. We're active at about 100 sites in 30 countries in Europe, in North America, in Africa. And I'm very much on the paper side of things. So we have different business units. I'm in the uncoated fine paper business unit. So we actually create paper brands as well, which is important for me as a digital marketer. It's easier to market brands than just quote unquote the raw materials. So we create brands such as Color Copy, the #1 digital printing paper. We have brands such as Graphica, a really nice, relatively new premium design paper. So for premium books and packaging applications and creative designs. And we also have a rather well-known recycled paper called Nautilus, and 100 different other brands across Europe, depending on where you are and where you buy from.
Interesting. So tell me a little bit, so let's dig into your role a little bit, because as you said, you've mentioned a couple of different types of paper products that you're selling. You've got specific brands. Are you going direct to consumer with some of those brands? Are you going who's your ICP, your ideal customer?
Yeah, we're strictly B2B for the most part. So actually, that's a tough challenge. It has been a tough challenge for me as a digital marketer, that the people who are interested and who are making decisions about our paper are most of the times not the ones who we sell to. We sell to wholesalers, we sell to paper distributors, we call them paper merchants. If you've seen The Office, you know about those, right? We sell to these kind of companies. In reality, they're much nicer, actually. But especially when we launched a brand such as Graphica, we realized that we need to talk further down the value chain, right? We need to talk to the people who actually love our paper rather than sell it exclusively, right? So we need to, for instance, talk to graphic designers, agency people, printers, and we created sales teams for that. We call that backselling, right? So we sell, but we do not sell directly. We talk to people about our brands because we love them, and we introduce them to our brands because that's something that some of our paper merchants are really, really good at, and some of whom are really focused on the logistics side of things, and to optimize costs, do less marketing, which is absolutely understandable. So we have become sort of like a brand owner. Yeah, like in the past, I felt we are more like an industry player. We are a producer of paper, and that was our self-image also in marketing. And now, especially driven by marketing and innovation here in the central office in Vienna, I feel we have felt that brand owner role more strongly. And that is, of course, also sort of my task as a digital marketer and in customer experience. The customers we talk about in customer experience are 90% not direct customers. They are the personas like a graphic designer, an art director, a printer, a small copy shop owner. Yeah, everybody who normally would not talk to MONDI. And we realized they're actually, for the most part, really happy to have this direct connection to us.
So how are you then juggling or balancing that between those company, the distributors of the product that you're looking to sell versus those that you mentioned further down the value chain? And how are you balancing that customer experience? Are you running two different streams of marketing? What's your playbook there?
Yeah, we are running two different streams, but we really try to coordinate this within campaigns. So there is a specific team who addresses the marketing side of our paper merchants, of our distributors, and we have a specific team who addresses the potential customers of our merchants also directly, talking about our brands. But these people work very closely together. So when we talk about feet on the ground, the backseller of our paper merchant in Germany and our backseller in Germany, they go hand in hand. They sometimes they work so closely together that they sort of split up the market. And sometimes you get a visit from our paper merchant and then maybe a year later from us, and we talk about the same thing, and that's beautiful, right? In the end, it's about selling, for instance, per graphica to a graphic designer in the sense that they think, you know what, that's a valid choice for my next creative product.
Interesting. Let me dig into these campaigns a little, if you'll allow me.
Yeah.
Give me is there any standout things that you've done that have worked particularly well within those campaigns, or a campaign that's performed particularly well?
Here I might mention the B2B campaign that has won 14 international awards. Yeah.
So it's done all right. It's done all right then, yeah.
It's done okay.
Okay, tell us a little bit more about that, please.
Yeah, so let's give credit to where credit is due. We worked with a B2B advertising agency called True in London, and they helped us develop a campaign called Catching Feels. So this was at the core of it, we had the idea to develop not our first one, another lookbook for per graphica, basically a coffee table book that showcases everything that this paper can do, all different colors of the paper. We have whites, we have colored paper, finishing techniques, beautiful hot foils, different printing technologies. It's basically really a showcase for what you can do with paper in the year, it was 2020, actually. Then I was in place, our digital strategy was already in place, so we knew this can be just one element. So there was, for instance, so we created a lot of different touch points. We created a making of video of the book. That was like the core piece of our digital advertising campaign. We created a lot of pictures, assets around that. We had the content of the book was actually a collaboration also with Adobe Stock. And we used 4 artists that provide content such as illustrations and photography to Adobe Stock. We featured them in the book. So we had interviews, videos with those artists on our website. There's a hub on the website where you can navigate through that. The whole point of it is to, on the one hand, show what beautiful photography looks like on our uncoated paper, which is, by the way, not typical for a photo book, right? To use uncoated paper. But if you use a premium uncoated design paper like the Graphica, it can look great. And on the other hand, to just prove to our target audience, the creatives out there, that we are here to inspire them and also to give them the materials that they need to create great products. And it was lucky that we did that, that I prepared all of those channels, because yeah, we launched that in 2020 and suddenly our big fairs were gone. We didn't have any customer meetings or very limited customer meetings. So we turned everything around and created, for instance, webinar talks with our featured artists and things like that. And also really had the chance to roll out this campaign first in a digital way. And then when things became more manageable with the pandemic, get those books into people's hands as well. So that was a really stellar success, and we won those prizes, and the agency won those prizes because it was also really efficient. So we saw leads skyrocketing, we saw sales increasing, and actually our merchant partners who, when we first launched this brand, they were saying, well, you know, this is a Me Too brand. We have something like that in our portfolio. They suddenly saw that the way we did marketing is different, is unique, is special, and that we understand this kind of multi-channel, omni-channel approach and embrace digital, even though we were disrupted by digital channels. And all of that, I think, in combination and a little bit of luck led to pretty great success.
I think so. It's really interesting because that is essentially in the B2B world. If we wanted to say, okay, what was the channel that you built everything around? It was a direct mail piece. You made sure that direct mail piece was incredibly creative and presented your brand in a way that made you irresistible or undeniably great at what you're doing, right? And I love direct mail. I'm a big advocate of direct mail. What I don't like is shitty direct mail. So like companies just send any old junk out in the post, and then somebody follows up with a phone call. Hey, did you get my XYZ that I sent in the post? You know, whereas what you guys did was you worked with True in the UK, who thought through a proper creative, like well thought out and well planned campaign, and that was all structured around that book, right? Like everything was built around that book. So like that's like the perfect example of like an incredibly well executed direct mail campaign, but with other channels, like with an omni-channel approach beyond that as well, like with your webinars, as you mentioned, and so on, which were knockoffs of that direct mail piece, right?
Yeah, it wasn't even a direct mail in the sense that we really wanted to hand over those books personally. That was a rule until it wasn't possible anymore. So it sort of turned into a direct mail. But we really dug into that thing as well, because I couldn't agree more. Even though I work for a paper company, really people stop sending shitty direct mail, because today, even in, you know, it's in the newspapers now that paper is the new gold. It's really rare currently on the market. Prices are up. I shouldn't talk too much about pricing because it's a really touchy subject, obviously, but there is not enough paper on the market currently. That will change, of course, again. However, I think the idea to say, you know what, everything that's mass appeal, that's commodity, that's about reaching as many people as quickly as possible for as little money as possible, it's hard to beat digital, right? It's really hard to beat. That has become the norm for this kind of mass communication. But that means that paper communication, things that are physical, that are touchable, that have this touch and feel, the sound, the wow effect, have become the special thing, have become outstanding. And we need to start treating those things like that, because I think some companies and also some agencies still think that, yeah, it's okay to just do the standard, you know, that just send the PDF to the printer, let them do it on the standard paper, no problem, let's send it out, it's standard. No, we need to realize that having something in your like physical mailbox is something special, and you need to treat it like that. And we have continued our direct mail approach with 2-3 mailings only to our very best indirect customers per year. And I have never experienced the fact that customers were calling us proactively, thanking us for this mail and asking us how we were able to create that in print. So they treated that as a sample that they will show to their customers. Wouldn't you also like something beautiful like that? So I think that took some convincing internally as well, to spend that money.
You're
But then in
sending
the end,
stuff in the post, and it's so expensive when we can just throw ads at them all the time, like, or why don't we just send them an email? Like, I get it.
And we just did both, of course,
Exactly.
we have our newsletter, we have our Instagram campaigns, we have our Google, we have all of that in place. And then if you top that off with something physical and something personal, and maybe this year, a few events, that is just a perfect experience. This is where we want to go, and partly have arrived.
There's very little wow effect with anything that you can achieve digitally. I'm not saying it's not possible, but with digital as a standalone, to try to wow somebody when they're constantly overwhelmed with digital, like you're surrounded by it, right? It's like to have something, as you said, that goes in the post and then it's well thought out, well managed, that people were reaching back out to you rather than you having to go and actually get in touch with them, say, hey, did you get the thing? It's a bit like, nowadays we like look at a company like Apple, and Apple focus on not just the product, but actually the unboxing experience. When you buy something from Apple, the experience of actually taking that laptop out or MacBook out of its box, or its iPhone out of the box, is almost as rewarding as actually having the phone itself or whatever. It's that initial, oh, this is great. It's hard to describe. It's hard to achieve. It's hard to describe the feeling that you get from that. But if you do a good direct mail piece, is personalized, that's well thought out, that's well structured, you can get that wow factor, and you've achieved that. That's amazing.
Yeah. And there we are at packaging, right? That's also a segment where especially our deep shades, the Pagraphica colors, which are deeply, deeply red or deeply, deeply blue. And we sell that, for instance, to brand owners of cosmetics or perfumes or watches. And it's really interesting that they are absolutely willing to pay a premium price for that, because they know if you stand out on the shelf and then in the packaging experience, the unboxing experience, I mean, just look at the hashtag on Instagram, right? The unboxing. It's absolutely worth it, because people are just, it has always been important for humans to touch things. But in this day and age, as you say, where we're overwhelmed with the audio visual, the haptic experience is so much stronger.
100%. 100%. Could not agree more. And so you've mentioned a couple of bits around that overall campaign. There was webinars, there was many digital touch points in there as well. So you're talking about emails, you're talking about the advertising that you're doing across social channels. Let's dig into like some of the tech that you're using behind that, if you can share. So like you're managing all customer experience. What stack are you currently using to first of all to track and also to execute? Like how is that stack looking right now?
Yeah, sure. So on the sort of social side, surprisingly, our most successful channel for Pagraphica specifically is Instagram. So very few B2B company would probably say that about themselves, but we now know that our most successful like project generating channels are generated via Instagram and via our inquiry form on the website. So basically the lightest touch and the at the end of the customer journey, the inquiry.
Why is that, do you think, with Insta? Is it because of is it designers, etc., that are reaching out via that channel, or is it those in betweens, the distributors?
No, it's the designers. Yeah. So I think we just have this perfect Venn diagram of, we have the content that really fits the brand, it fits the target audience, and it fits the channels, in that we show what is being created with our paper. So we show real, actual, beautiful books and other applications packaging that is inspiring. And that is what the people are looking for on Instagram. It's beautiful, fitting Instagram content. And our creative target audience is absolutely using Instagram. So it's just perfect to build an audience over time, learn more about the audience, and then target them. So actually, what we use is pretty simple lookalike audiences based on the website and our on the Instagram engagement. And then we ask people, would you like a paper sample? Free of charge. And many of them say yes. And that is our marketing lead base.
Excellent.
That then goes to SAP Marketing Cloud, which is our marketing automation software. Behind that, we have also the SAP-based Customer Cloud as a CRM. And in analytics, we also have the SAP tool. So basically, our IT is very SAP-based. So we use that tech stack to have a flow of leads through our systems, also create newsletters, create customer segments, have some insights. On top of that, we have Qualtrics in terms of voice of the customer. That's also an interesting development, how we only started out with that to get more feedback from customers, really, really valuable. And then as a digital asset management, behind all of that, we have Celum. Our website runs on SAP Hybris. I think it's called SAP Commerce today, actually, Commerce Cloud, because we have an actual web shop for our direct customers, for our wholesalers. They can buy paper by the truckload on the website, but that is then integrated with our sort of shopping window, our brand website called MyMondi.net, which is specifically built for printers and for creatives. But for instance, then a picture of a product we only maintain on Celum. We have an integration to the customer cloud, to the commerce cloud, and that cycles through up to the public website, mymondi.net. So that's the basic setup. And then, of course, to manage all of those countries and the complexity of our marketing and the budgets and the to-dos and our campaigns, we have Marmind.
Got it. Okay, so let me dig into a couple of pieces in this stack, if I may. Just in your marketing automation, is because Marsus is an Austrian company as well, and Marsus is acquired by SAP. Is that also now forming part of your stack for that marketing automation piece, or is it pure SAP?
Currently, it's pure SAP Marketing Cloud. Let's see what the future brings.
Okay, got it. I'm interested to see how SAP are going to pull Marsus into their marketing automation suite from an execution perspective, but it's pure SAP right now, right? It's they're still keeping things relatively separate.
Yeah. I'm asking the very same questions, but I really don't have answers yet. I'm very curious how they will manage that transition. If it's going to be a hard one, everybody move to Marsus, or if it's going to be like we're mashing those two together in some way, shape, or form.
It's probably going to be the latter, I would imagine. So the latter of what you just mentioned there. But historically in that space, it's a very, very difficult thing to do without a lot of pain for the vendor plus the customers. And then that causes even more pain for the vendor. Similar happened with takeovers of, for example, Exact Target by Salesforce back in 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
It's very similar situation. Very painful for existing Exact Target customers. Somewhat painful for people that were on the Salesforce cloud that then needed to switch over. Just difficult. Yeah. But it's how that industry is going. It's everybody's acquiring everyone, and the acquired clouds are growing, and they're only going to keep growing. Yes. It's that space in general is just as a side note is an incredibly interesting one, because you've got maybe these larger, you've got maybe 4 larger cloud players, or you've got your Oracle, Adobe, Salesforce, and SAP up the very top, and then that are focused on the enterprise size business. And then you've got this like in between that has hundreds of independent players that are all offering the same thing as the cloud services, and they're all trying to play in the mid-market. It's a crazy space. But anyway, that's just as a as a side note.
If you watch the Gartner quadrants about this in the last few years, it's mental how this changed. Really, really, I mean, mind-blowing.
For sure, yeah. So I'm quite close to that space because I've worked for a couple of those organizations, so I know it well. But yeah, as you mentioned, like the magic quadrant, the one that you're talking about is for marketing hubs, so multi-channel marketing hubs. Yeah. And then you'll also have the Forrester Wave reports for cross-channel campaign management. And it's like the visual has just like so many plots on it just because of the amount of players in that mid-market space. It's wild. But it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on that space. But let me get back to MONDI and the team. So like your team is that mostly based in Vienna, or is everybody dispersed?
The customer experience team is based in Vienna, but we're embedded in the marketing and innovation team. And this is partly dispersed. So we have also offices in the Netherlands and in Munich and in Italy and so on. So we have smaller local offices, but the office in Vienna actually houses many business units. And I think we're like 600 people if we are fully booked in Vienna for the MONDI group. So it's a pretty massive organization.
Absolutely. So 600 people for the marketing team?
No.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, that's crazy. Okay, 600 people in MONDI. So how many people are across the entire marketing team globally?
For our business unit, I think it's about 30 people.
30 people.
Yeah.
Okay. And because you mentioned Marmind there at the end as well, and I think it would be good, especially because you mentioned it, like the current marketing team. So how many users are currently on Marmind right now for MONDI?
Must be around 80.
80, okay. And so you guys are using it mainly so from a planning perspective, budgeting perspective, and then also just communication across the team, correct?
Yeah, so for us, we did onboard this step by step. So the first step was really collaboration to do management, basically getting rid of everybody maintaining their own Excel sheets and PowerPoint presentations. That was the big, huge first step to really plan collaboratively and create those plans together and make sure that we only maintain that plan on one spot and not in 15 different really redundant local files. So, and then we started budgeting as well. That was also really important and essential, especially because of the local budget. That's what makes things really complicated. And so we import our invoices, we have total transparency, and our head of marketing, Ben and Kanzler, is also really open about this. So everybody can look at the status of the budget and at any time in Marmind, which is, I think, to many people, mind-blowing, right? Normally, you would hustle through your invoices and ask accounting and go to many different places to have a transparent view. So it's very, very helpful. And then what has become, I think, a small favorite of mine is asset management, not in the sense that we have all of our assets in Marmind, but collaborating and creating assets together, having this feedback from a dispersed team in a very short manner. Everybody can look at this at the document at the same time and add their comments, also valuable. And then we started onboarding a few agencies as well. For instance, also a surprise to me, what worked really well is onboarding our translation agency. So we had a person who managed translations for everybody as a small part of her job. And that is just gone now. Everybody just sends it to the translation agencies. They send their price quote and then the finished result. It's really straightforward. So managing approvals for assets and creating assets together has become much more efficient, I feel, with Marmind.
That translations agency is an interesting one because it's such a simple thing, but it's one of those things where you're able to keep a stream of communications going within the tool, within the to-dos. So anything that's being translated can be kept within the to-do. You assign the to-do over to the translation agency. All of the comms stay within the platform. Anybody can see it. If one person's out of the office and somebody else needs the translation, needs to figure it out, that person can then jump in. That's a very clever way, instead of doing it over email or whatever it might be. Email for me is a terrible channel generally, but yeah, I think that's a really interesting use case. How long have you been doing that for?
A little more than a year, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. How many languages are you guys currently marketing in, let's say?
Yeah, we have 4 key languages: German, French, Italian, and English.
Okay. Challenging as well. Very
Yes.
challenging.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe we'll put that challenge to one side. But let's dig into a couple of challenges. We only have a couple of minutes left, but I'd just be interested to hear from your side. Like, what do you see, or what are maybe some of your current challenges in the customer experience space, and maybe what do you see as or foresee as potential challenges coming up maybe in the next 6 to 9 months, let's say?
I think technically, obviously, it's the end of the cookie discussion and how we will continue with personalized targeting in the future. So
if that ever is going to happen, that's the question, because Google keep on pushing that out. So let's see. It will happen some point, but 2024 is what they're saying now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. But generally, being GDPR compliant and doing great digital marketing still is the issue. The whole topic of lead generation and advertising and brand awareness in different countries. We've experimented with contextual targeting, for instance. I think that's really, really interesting. Yeah. And then the other challenge is still COVID. I think fairs are coming back, events are coming back. I really hope that's not going to be disrupted once again, because we planned a lot in that space, because there's a huge hunger. I've just went to my first small fair in Munich a week ago, and people were like ripping the samples out of our hands and super engaged. Everybody was so happy to be back. It's really a palpable atmosphere. So we really hope that's going to last, because we also have an event series about sustainability. And that's the third thing. I think that's a mega trend, but also a challenge for a company like ours, to be authentic, to be transparent, and to be always working on improving your sustainable profile.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's tough, yeah, especially as nowadays people are so focused, as generally the general population are very focused on sustainability and environmental issues and global warming, things like that. Maybe we're not as concentrated as we probably should be, but the tide is changing. I think the way that I see it maybe moving is that COVID will start to maybe lose a bit of sight in people's minds. To still be there, and the next big thing is everybody's going to be focused on global warming, sustainability, the environment, etc. Like that must be a challenge for a company like MONDI, who are selling paper. It's a finite resource, right? It's not. It's something that you need to keep on harvesting. You guys are clearly doing quite a lot of work on the sustainability piece. So you just mentioned that event series. Tell us a little bit more about the event series and what's the thought process behind it, and how are you structuring those events?
Yeah. So the events are called Design for a Sustainable Future. And we have some key markets that correspond to the languages that I just mentioned. So we're doing one event in each of those markets, starting in Paris, France, and Vienna, Austria in September. And then we'll go on to Germany, France, and Italy as well, and Switzerland as well. And it's an event series that's following up on our campaigns like Catch and Feels. We still want to talk a lot to creatives and we want to inspire them, but we want to especially here also educate them about sustainability and what that means for their customers potentially, and for their projects, how they can think more sustainably and design more sustainably, and what role paper plays in this. So on the one hand, it's about showing them what we do and being transparent about them. And on the other hand, it's inviting designers as keynote speakers as well, who will tell everybody their approach. And then those are like 60, 70 people events. And the Paris event has been announced and has been booked out within 2 days, I think.
Amazing.
So a crazy, just, I think, how should I say, a strong hunger for those in-person events, I think, and the topic is very hot. Plus, we have something to tell in the sense that at the end of last year, we have had all of our products cradle to cradle certified at the level of bronze. So we are taking our already strong sustainable profile when it comes to CO2, when it comes to sustainable forestry, resource management, energy management, etc., towards a more circular thinking, where we say, okay, our paper is recyclable, that's confirmed. We also have recycled products, that's great, but there is an end to recycling of paper because after 4 to 6 cycles, it has to go to waste. And now we also think about this end of life of paper and make sure that everything that we use creating our paper, producing our paper, can go back in the natural cycle and will not disrupt nature. Basically, the end goal is for our paper to become compostable. So now we're at bronze. When we are at the gold level, we're compostable, and that's where we're headed, right?
That's the
but it's a project. Yeah.
Good. That's amazing. That's just really great. And also great to hear there's such an appetite for those events, because in the past, those events are typically a very heavy lift. You know, it's and the heaviest of those lifts is trying to get people to show up. That's always been my experience with running those self-run events, right? But it sounds as though you're not going to have that issue, right?
No, we also established a network of partners in those countries. We're not as well known in France, for instance, as we are in Germany or Austria, where we sort of have a home base. So we partnered up, for instance, with a magazine called Etape, and those strategic partnerships pay off in lead gen, but also for these events.
For sure. All right, Markus, look, we've chewed the fat for long enough, I think. So I just wanted to say thank you for coming on and having a chat with me. It's been really interesting, and congratulations on all of those 14 awards for that that piece that you did in that campaign. That sounds amazing. Where can people find you, Markus, if they're looking for you?
Well, our products you can find on mymondi.net. On Instagram, it's @pergraphica. Same is true for LinkedIn. Me personally, if you want to follow me on Twitter, which is mostly about board games, role-playing games, and pro wrestling, it's @Vienna, spelled with a W.
Good. We'll share all of the social links and links to websites and everything in the description as well. So, Markus, thank you so much. Guys, this has been another episode of This Is Your Captain Speaking. Looking forward to speaking with you again next week. Take it easy.